All right, good morning. I'm setting up the record button and now I'm going to share my screen. And this is Heather Choate Davis, and I am welcoming you to episode 3 of What Are You Talking About? And today I have with me my good friend Matt Hoffmann from the Chicagoland area. And before I let him introduce himself, I'm going to embarrass him very quickly with one thing that makes me treasure his friendship. Matt was part of a very small team of scrappy visionaries who were in charge of hosting a pastors' conference in their area. And they had tried to get Eugene Peterson, but when they couldn't get him, they got me. And I will always remember that as like the greatest compliment of my life. And it was certainly a brave thing that they did to have me keynote their pastors' conference. So I was always grateful for that. And then also we share a love. He introduced me to the wonderful music of the Hagia Sophia. And you sent me that link and you said, Heather, you're going to love this music. And so I knew that we were connected through music, and that's why I reached out. So Matt, introduce yourself today and then ask me your question about what I'm talking about.
Right. Thank you so much. No, it's great to be with you. I'm a pastor, like you said, in the Chicagoland area, and we really loved having you come to our pastors conference. That was truly a joy. And one of the things I appreciate about you is the way you have a heart for some similar things that I do, connecting some of the ancient practices of worship to today, and finding such relevance in some of the ancient practices of how people express their faith and their wonder and their awe at the mighty works of God. As I've listened to your album, and by the way, thank you for all of your hard work going into this. I can't imagine the magnitude of a task of saying, let's just do an album. That goes into, there's a million decisions that need to be made. So I'm just really grateful that you did it. I've listened to it a number of times and listened to it all the way through. And in fact, this morning I listened to it all the way through, and it started again on a player, and I just listened to it through maybe 3 times just because I was busy doing stuff around the house, and it was wonderful. But the thing that struck me, and I guess the question I have for you is, and this is not a bad thing. I think this is a wonderful thing. This album may be one of the most eclectic albums that I've come across. There's so many different styles of music. There's so many different rhythms. There's different voices. And I will have to say this, I didn't find that jarring, because if I look at my own playlist when I'm out doing things, it oftentimes is eclectic as well. So tell me, if you would, about that process of putting together this variety of styles into one album.
Well, it's such a neat observation, because for me, having no musical background and finding each little song that I was hearing and then crafting and then wrestling onto the page and then asking kind of like, God, okay, who's supposed to sing this one? And sometimes it was really clear to me and sometimes it wasn't. And then I just trusted that process. And so I never worried like, oh, that style wouldn't go with that, or, oh, I trusted it. I first thought it was going to be 7 songs and then a few more added in, but I literally wrote down the order and it never changed. And even as it got to 10 songs, and even as it went into production and all the processes you normally do, oh, let's test which one would be the single and let's do no, it's like, this is the order, this is how it goes. And I just, even if I couldn't articulate it, understood that was the flow. And it starts with this beautiful enter here with this Celtic flavor, and then ends back in an Irish pub with this celebration of the journey, right? So I think, because I've been a writer for so long, I think you have some just bones in you that understands a natural narrative flow, even if you couldn't say it. But I think the thing that makes me so happy about that, and I love that you appreciate all the different styles together. People have said to me, gosh, there's so many different voices, and yet somehow it all speaks from the same voice. And I think that's true. It speaks from the voice of Christ alive in me, that spills into the music, that then spills into the hearts of the artist, that spills into the hearer. And so there's that uniformity in that way, even if the styles are different and what have you. And I think it all kind of is a celebration. You know, in the song Sophia, which is
Yeah.
dear to me, and at some point I'll probably do a deep dive with someone about that one. And that song is almost all scripture. But in the bridge of that song, and it really comes from Proverbs 8, and Sophia meaning the wisdom of God, right? And we say, Sophia, rejoicing, inviting, delighting in the whole human race. We don't hear a lot of that in Christianity anymore. We don't talk like
Right.
that anymore. And yet that's what this album reflects. It's just like rejoicing at all of you, all the flavors and styles and lenses, and all of you who, you know, love and long to know Jesus, you know, even if you don't, or maybe you're like, stay away, but oh gosh, that maybe there's something there, right? Sophia's like, come on, come to the table is set, right? And then that inviting and delighting. And so I think that's what you get in the variety here, is that spirit of delight in just how big a tent the family of God is. It's a big tent. And maybe if I'm lucky, I'll make some more friends from like more countries, and I'll get better at this, and we can even have more voices in the second album. So that would be terrific.
It was wonderful. Now, do you have a just a pool of artists that you work with? I mean, because of the variety, you have to have people that have such different talent sets and such different gifts. And so, I mean, I don't want this to be it's not a trite question. I really mean this. You know, how did this group of people come about, which are featured on the album?
Every single person is a very dear friend of mine, because I knew very early on, like, I'm not a singer, and I still can't even play any of my songs at full speed. Any of the songs I wrote, I mean, I'm learning, been taking piano for a year. I can't do it. But that's the other thing. It reminds me about what it is to be in the body. Like, I'll bring a piece and you'll bring a piece, and then somebody else will bring a piece, not all on us. We can lift it up together. But okay, let's take the opening song, Enter Here.
Mhm.
That's my next door neighbor of 25 years who's singing that. And her former husband, who she stays dear friends with, who's playing the piano and arranged it. And he arranged several of the tracks on that song. And the two people singing the harmonies and that wonderful Celtic fiddle, those were, you know, poor, starving, talented artists living in their garage. And as we were starting to rehearse, she's like, go get Xander with the fiddle and let's do that. And so that's how those songs, and every person there, Donna Bullock, who sings Full Circle Day, she was someone who was a member of my church 25 years ago when I first came to faith, when my daughter had a brain tumor. And I was just like, I can't get through this alone. And that's when, you know, Christ called me. And she sings on Broadway. She sang the lead on Broadway in Ragtime. And, you know, she's off now living in a little house in Massachusetts, totally forgot, you know, nobody remembers her. And I'm like, I remember you, you're a dear friend, come sing, bring your awesome voice to the table. And so these are all people that I've known along the way. Some are in Lutheran church worlds, some are not at all. My friend Kate Campbell, she tours around the country, and big following in Ireland, actually. She's from Nashville. She does that wonderful morning song, that little prayer that she does at the end there. So these are dear friends from many, many places in my life. And so that's why it's really a celebration. I trusted their love for me, and that they would care for me in the music.
So it's an eclectic album that came from an eclectic group of people, and that's
Yes.
reflected.
I think
But
that is fair to say. I think if look, 9:07, we went over our limit. I'm gonna cut you off here, but you know what? We can come back and do another one, because this is fun. And think if you have something else you want to talk about, we'll do it again.
whatever works. I'm happy to help. I just want to make sure I was asking enough questions that you could express the joy of the album.
So Matt, keep on listening, keep reminding people. I love that you listen straight through. I think so many people, they'll go on Spotify, they'll just listen to like 3 songs and then a commercial comes in and then they stop. But there is really a journey to be had listening straight through.
If you have 1 second, there's this, and this obviously is not part of the podcast here, but it's Sophia's wisdom in one of the books of wisdom, Ecclesiastes. I've always taught it as it means something as you go through, and it's the reality of life, you know, and it's but then you get to the end and there's an invitation to there's nothing new under the sun, but then there's an invitation to look beyond the sun in the sky and up to the heavens. And I always take that as an invitation to go back and read it again with a new perspective. And so this morning kind of hit me as I listened to the whole album. It was great. And then when Enter In came, I almost felt like I was prepped to listen to it a different way, because so it just kind of fit with that whole wisdom literature theme.
Oh, that's a perfect place to end. Matt, thank you so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and
Thank you.
God bless you. Bye.
You too. Thanks a lot.